everybody, Goodbuddy Q here with...
Lubo.
Surprise is the less discussed on 2P, and it's not Dig. April Fool's, it's Lubo.
Oh, I guess we tried to trick you, but I wasn't even
It's
aware
not
we
actually a
went on a
trick, I
trick.
fucking hate this day.
What? Hey, I liked April Fool's Day.
I don't. Then again, you tend to hate things when you're at the butt of every joke, every fucking April Fool's ever since you were a child.
Well, that does kind of suck. I'll give you that.
Yeah. So I was like, I will do good. I will make things unexpected. That is my prank. Surprise.
I guess I am unexpected. I am the prank. The 2P are the prank. We come in a package deal.
Yes. And I'm not sick anymore. Alright, so anyway. Yes, let's discuss on not my 2Ps this time, but more of 2Ps that I've come across in my many adventures of doing shit, and I've really liked. And for the most part, they were on Tumblr. So I was like, you know what, I'm gonna do a video about them. I brought Lubo here because you are the expert, because a lot of my favorites are from your universe. So I was like, I'll get the source.
We do have a couple that aren't, I swear to God.
Yes.
But because I talk with her a lot, I share my headcanons and my environments with her a lot, and yeah.
Yes.
Let's get a move on, shall we?
Yes, let's do this. Let's talk about your world, because it's different from our world, as in me and Diggs.
Yeah, yours is kind of happy-go-lucky, sort of, from what I understand, a pretty close copy of ours?
Yeah, it's like more of people giving less of a shit. More or less. It has more room for shenanigans.
Mine is a little more traditional.
Dystopia.
At least it was when I first started creating them and investigating this setting. But initially, when I started trying to poke my head into the 2P fandom that was appearing on Tumblr and in, at the time, Gaia Online, everybody who made a 2P basically said, oh, they're really violent, they're hypersexualized, they have murderous tendencies, they're all thieves and liars, and it bothered me. Why? What caused them all to be like this? So rather than kind of poke my head in and say, hey, you're doing it wrong, I decided to try and come up with a reason to cause this strange, very unpleasant behavior. So I instead made a craptastic world that causes them to all act like assholes.
Hooray!
Basically, they discovered fossil fuels a lot sooner, and they also started the Industrial Revolution a lot faster. They skipped by steam power entirely. And it caused a lot of issues. The issues that we're just now seeing for us started about, I think, 100 years prior for them. So, I can only imagine what an extra 100 years of the sort of CO2 belching material into the atmosphere and ocean acidity can cause for a world. Basically, rain patterns shifted, their weather changed, and it caused a lot of problems. Now there's barely enough water for everyone to go around. There's a lot of issues with
Planting?
Yes, their soil is just completely shot. A lot of erosion, a lot of scarcity in farmland. Water sources are very jealously guarded, and they almost act like currency. It's kind of explains how the cutthroat mentality that a lot of the early 2Ps that I saw had. Now this has changed now that everyone's rejected the 2Ps being something other than violent. Gosh, so old hat.
Yeah, it's
now
like a revolution or something.
I think because everyone kind of got sick of the stereotypical violence. Oh, mine is an evil laugh. Ah, they got kind of sick of the same stuff that I did, thankfully. So things have changed now, but the world still stands as it is now. The nations present there, they're all failed nations. Basically, they're nations that kind of, one way or another, they had a chance to start, and then they just didn't make it. Perhaps they failed to win a civil war. Maybe they were conquered during a very important part of their lives. They were cut down, something along those lines. And they crossed over into the 2P world, or this crap sack of a world, depending upon when they landed there, to try and live out their history as they would have if they had survived. Now, in crossing over, all of them get red eyes. It's basically to tell them apart should they accidentally cross back over. They can't exactly pretend to be their 1P counterparts anymore. Usually their 1P is the person who killed them, so it kind of makes sense that you wouldn't want anybody impersonating them, because I can imagine they would hold grudges at least for the first couple hundred years until their memories fade. Crossing into the 1P world, again, is possible through rivers. Usually it has to be a pretty deep one, and you basically have to go down far enough that normal people or animals would have drowned by the time they got there. So, crossing through basically at that point means that you don't want to be there anymore so badly you don't care if you come back up. But in some cases, they pop right back out on the other side and rise up and float off on a river. Now, in crossing, they lose their ability to regenerate and regrow limbs, and basically their immortality the longer they stay there. So there's kind of a price that they have to pay. It works conversely for 1Ps as well, crossing over into the 2P world. Gradually, they'll lose their sense of immortality. And it's now incredibly hard to do these things nowadays because, one, not very many people know how to cross. So when they do find out, it's by accident, and they generally don't come back. And two, water sources are heavily policed, so it's really hard to actually get near enough to a deep river, never mind jump into it, if you don't own the stupid thing to begin with.
Well, that'd be kind of hilarious when you think about it, because I guess when they know about it and they just show up, they just show off their ideas, like, okay, I need access to this area. They get in and they just suddenly jump in. The police are like, what the fuck?
And then down they go and they don't come back up. I imagine it'd probably be really concerning if you were just a bystander looking at this and was like, did he just drown himself? Oh dear.
Holy shit.
But anyway, I think we could probably move on to at least the three big ones that we're going to feature today.
Yes, the three candidates that we're going to highlight today. Like, we're going to talk about some other ones at the end, but these are the three big ones we're going to talk about, because they're the ones I like the most. Yay. So, let's see who you can recognize. So we got, first off, 2P Russia, Ivan Mikhailovich Bazarov, or as most people call him, Vanya. And we got number 2, 2P, Germany. You'll see why I say Eugene Vulker Heinz Ulrich Bielefeld, or just Vulker.
Good lord, that's a mouthful.
I know, German names. And then lastly, 2P America, Alexander Davius Jones.
I like to think the D actually stands for douchebag.
Or dick.
Or dickhead.
You'll see
Both
why.
of which fit with him.
Pretty much. So ta-da, these are our three jazz hands. Yes, let's talk about Vulker first, because he is the most removed, because he's actually not properly from this world. He just still kind of is in its system, but not actually, and you'll see why. He's... When I said it's because he's not really a 2P. As the creator of this person said, he's more of a 1.75P. He's not fully a 2P, but he's still pretty much it.
He hasn't fully crossed over yet, basically.
He's made from the dissatisfaction of Germany around World War II.
Well, World War I, World War II. He was born in the 20s, I think.
Yeah, so like just right after World War I, when things were getting really shitty, and then he just blew up, not literally, in World War II.
Well, he blew up later.
Yeah. He barely has a grip on his immortality anymore since he's not really anything proper. He was made after World War I was Germany was getting reprimanded, and he's still able to exist even though he hasn't fully crossed over or anything. He was supposed to, but he didn't. He got stuck in ice.
Basically, he got, from what I understand, he was either shot or run over by a tank. I can't remember which off the top of my head.
I want to say it was tank.
He died, and he got frozen over and stuck in the ice, and he kept thawing, coming back to life, dying from exposure, and repeated this process for 6 months until spring happened.
Yep.
It's why he stinks. He literally smells like a corpse.
Yep. And because of this, that he's not fully a nation either, he heals slowly. Like, remember what we said that 2Ps have limited healing in that area? Well, it kind of works for him in a way, because A, not really in his environment anymore and still really removed. So he heals slowly. Like, if he does get something, he can still attach them, but they just don't work right.
Like his leg.
Yep, it got blown off once. He stuck it back on, but it doesn't work right.
It's because he's impatient.
Yep. And he's still haunted by the past. Oh my god.
Yeah. If he doesn't take his special vitamins and he starts to lose a lot of sleep, he'll start to hallucinate about the human beings that he lost during the war. Most of them asking him why he allowed them to die.
Or he just straight up has delusions about being in there. He'll like give you blank papers and say, okay, you need to sign these forms. And it's like, but it's blank. He's like, no, it's you sign right there. And he's not well.
No, he isn't. He's actually very young for nation kind. He's less than 90 years old. Well, he's either just a little over or just a little under 90. And he hasn't really had time to fully comprehend nationhood and accepting human deaths as not his own. So he overcompensates for everything, and he remembers everything, and he doesn't know how to process it yet.
Yep. Not to mention, he's just desperate to be accepted. It's a mighty need. Though, ironically, he has a lot of commitment issues. He'll run. He'll jump out the window.
Yeah?
He will.
He will. You bring up love or marriage, ooh, that's a bad word.
Though, and a third dose of ironic, he'll also flirt with anything on two legs.
Yeah. Despite marriage being a dirty word for him, he's anything with a pulse.
Basically.
Yeah, that leads into the next bit.
The fourth ironic, he's in a bit of denial about himself for what he likes. Mostly he does like dudes, but whenever anything is brought up about that, he just yells that there was a war on, which obviously means he did something during the war, and now he's in denial.
Good job.
Because he can't comprehend that stuff nowadays. It's like,
He's basically an old man in a young man's body. Like, he doesn't comprehend modern phones very well, or modern technology. Like, his computer, he has a laptop from the 90s still lying around his house, and that's how he does his paperwork.
Yep. But that's Vulker. He's a good guy. We'll talk about more about his quirks later. This is just basic character analysis. Now we move on to the next one. The one that's very important.
You guys are probably all very familiar with at this point.
Yeah, it's probably a lot of you are surprised to actually see him on this list. Unless you follow me and then actually know what we've been doing.
Yeah.
So you want to take over this one?
Sure. I actually used to get asks and questions about it, like, no, he can't be a 2P, he's too nice. Granted, that was a very toxic environment, at least at first, for other 2Ps. And Vanya, yeah, that's who we're getting to. Vanya, when he was first created, people expected that kind of violent behavior out of him, too. I remember I used to get asks for, things like, murder prompts. People used to ask me, hey, could you write, Vanya killing my character? And just out of the blue. Or, could you write them kissing mine really forcefully? And I'm like, holy crap, no! But anyhow. Yep, the next one is the old man himself.
Hooray!
Vanya. He used to be the Republic of Novgorod, which was a rival state and full country that used to sit hanging around in what we now know of as northern Russia, parts of Finland, and up into the Baltic Sea. And then he got killed by Muscovy. That was a messy business.
Moscow, for those who don't know Russian.
Who eventually became the Russia we know and, in some cases, love. He's a massive worrywart. He's always getting into other people's business, and he's always poking his big old nose into other people's business. He can't really leave well enough alone. And that's because he craves having other interpersonal connections with people. He wants to have a family so badly. But it never works out for him very well. He ends up adopting people because of it.
So
and that
many.
includes strangers, essentially.
Big and small.
He's based on now a very archaic ideas of Russian masculinity. At least, I would say, prior to 1950. Basically, to be a brick wall to shield your family and friends, because if they hide behind you, no harm will come to them. You will take everything on for them, so they don't have to worry about a thing. It's kind of self-destructive.
Yep.
And he doesn't really... He takes everything for everybody else, but he never stops to pause and take care of himself. The mortar likes to crack, if you get the brick implications. He's also kind of a pacifist. He prefers to use his words to solve problems as opposed to his fists or his sovnya. Violence has to come at an absolute end. It's not his first go-to. He doesn't like really hurting people. It's not his thing. When he was young, you know, as the Republic of Novgorod, he was very successful. He was originally a trade city, and he kind of exploded. He swelled up faster than his city could hold everybody. So he started acquiring henchmen, and he grew a massive ego. He was so full of himself, and that's where his vanity comes from. He can be surprisingly vain, considering how old he is. He doesn't like his gray hair. He doesn't like how he's so wrinkled, and how everyone else around him is still in the prime of their youth, or at least it looks like it. Let's see, he squirrels food and items away, like pre-preserves food. He jars cheese and salts meats, dries fish, that kind of thing. He's really poor. At least he is in the 1P world. He essentially exists as almost a hermit because he doesn't want to burden anybody else. He remembers what it's like starting out and not having anything, because when he first arrived he was homeless. So he tries to make sure nobody else does. And once a year he'll make a track around on foot and drop off crates of food or preserved slabs of meat at people's doorsteps. It's just something he does. He can't really help it. And that kind of goes into him acting like he still has henchmen, and everybody around him who is younger than he is his henchman. Even when it's highly inappropriate. He does this to other regions a lot. Like Tver, his estranged son. But we'll get to that.
Yeah.
There's also the matter of the vow. Would you take that, Kyo?
Yes, as you may have noticed, we mentioned 1P. Some of the 2Ps we mentioned here are in the 1P world because Tumblr. And some aren't, though. We'll go over the ones that aren't. Vanya, however, is one of them that I went over. And, you know, again, lived like a hermit, so on and so forth, lived in this world for a while. And now he's pretty much settled. And he made a vow for himself and other people to follow. While being in the 1V world, they are a guest and will not harm anyone native there. So if anyone else from another dimensions come out, they can kick their ass because they're probably a threat. And really, he kind of forces the other 2Ps who arrived to take that vow too, just to make them behave. Basically okay, don't harm anyone, don't steal, don't do anything bad, you're a guest here. If not, I'm gonna tie you up and throw you in the goddamn river. Okay? Okay. That's basically how it went.
Glad we have this settled.
Yeah. That happened to Siegfried. He got to come over. I'll explain that later, but that done scared him. Oh boy.
Yeah, the old man may be a pacifist, but he also knows how to get things done. And very rarely does he have to use force because he can be quite intimidating when he wants to be. And people don't expect it out of him.
And then when he does get violent, holy shit. It's not good.
Nah, it's not good. Speaking of not good...
Next! That's there, Alexander.
Alexander! God, what a piece of shit.
He is 10 out of 10 antagonist. Like, not gonna lie, I really want to make a 2P game and have him as an antagonist, because he's so cool. He's awful, but he's cool.
Oh, he's the kind of person that you love to hate.
Yeah, but anyway, continue on with him.
He is charming. He's handsome. He's very persuasive. He's very smart. He has a silver tongue. He will charm the honey right out of your ears. He has this character, this personality that just makes him so, well, easy to like, at least until you actually start to get to know him. He's very manipulative. He has little respect for human beings. He's a control freak. He's very cocky and very egotistical.
He's also very creepy.
Oh, God.
Like, the type to watch you sleep creepy.
He likes to know where everything that he owns is. And he doesn't like other people touching his things.
Including
and his
other
things can involve his states, any staff or help that he has, his bosses, people that he deems his family. Only he is allowed to touch them or interact with them, not anybody else. He kind of represented the South in the American Civil War, and as such, he still has that Southern drawl. He's actually a very good cook. But he also sees his states as lesser beings. Because when he was around, the US was still in the middle of separating out states based on how much worth they had, or they were buying them en masse from other countries. So, to him, they're basically just cattle to him. They can be bought and sold, and when they stop being useful, he basically ostracizes them. They're basically little more than servants in his eyes. He's very much a what can you offer me kind of person. If you aren't important to him, or you aren't actively doing something or some service for him, he doesn't want to have anything to do with you. But he's gonna make himself look like the victim in the process. Now, this does not reflect on Southern America today. This does not reflect upon the Southern United States as a whole. This is what happens when one person who has lost everything gets to stew on it for 150 years. and becomes very bitter.
Yep.
He can actually remember his time in the 1P world. He remembers what his eye color used to be. He remembers what it was like to drink water that didn't have a metallic tang, or smell flowers and not ash in the air. He wants that back. And he's in the middle of kind of creating that back in the 2P world, but it's not working very well, and it's working more slowly than he would have liked. Even so, his ability to kind of tend to the soil and revitalize it has turned him into an agricultural superpower, and he's very cocky about it.
Yep. Very much cock of the walk about it. He's like, yeah, it only feeds his ego more, Jesus.
Yeah. And he throws money around as quickly and easily as he can. If he can solve a problem with money, he will throw money at it. Or food. Or water. Both work. And he isn't above restricting food and water to his family members if it means it gets his way. He's done that to Matt a lot. And he's kind of religious, but only when it suits him. He goes to church to be seen at church, so that his reputation does not suffer. He has his Sunday best, and he goes to talk to the old ladies at church, and basically make sure everyone knows that he's a good church-fearing boy. God-fearing, excuse me, and church-fearing, because the church has a big sway over him, at least and his government, but he doesn't necessarily follow church doctrine. He's not a very good Christian.
Yeah. Doesn't really follow what's being preached.
Nah.
That or he twists it into a way that works for him. Like, there's, like, certain passages, and he's like, oh, it certainly means this. You know, I'm just doing what the good book says. And it's like, no, you're taking it out of context. Stop it.
Yeah, you're just being a douche. Stop it.
Yeah. And this also kind of reminded me of a thing of the, rich system that he's one of the superpowers. Note, 2P England is the most richest here because of the rainfall. Water and resources equals the richest superpowers around here.
It's why he can afford to bake so much and import so much sugar, because he can trade the water for it.
Yep.
And he has gotten very wealthy off of other people's expense.
And for the most part, Alexander does not know about this passage. For the most part. Like, the only ones who know discover it by accident. Or by rumors. Like, Siegfried and Luciana know about it. By accident. / rumors. Vanya discovered it by accident.
Yeah, Vanya discovered it by accident by basically dropping himself in. We'll get to that, though.
Yeah.
That's sad.
They're sad.